Hi everyone, welcome back to the Hybris Tube. This is Amandeep here. In today's session, we are going to talk about a topic which is confusing a lot of people in the SAP Commerce or in the Hybris world. And the topic is 2205 EOMM. Does this mean end of Hybris? I keep getting messages like, is Hybris dead after 2205? Will my 2205 project stop working after EOMM? Should we stop investing in SAP Commerce now? So first thing very clearly, EOMM is not end of Hybris. It only means end of mainstream maintenance for that particular 2205 release line. Hybris as a product family continues. Your system doesn't switch off. So in this video guys, we are going to walk through the full story of three release lines which are currently active release lines of SAP. The first one is SAP Commerce 2205. The second is SAP Commerce 2211 on JDK 17. The third is SAP Commerce 2211 on JDK 21. And we will understand why SAP has three lines in parallel and what exactly is EOMM and CSM. What is the impact if you stay on 2205? We will also see why SAP moved from JDK 17 to JDK 21. And then we will see how Spring 5 to Spring 6 migration fits in. And then we will see what is CCV2 and why SAP is pushing the customers there. And finally, we will see a practical roadmap you can use in your project. But just to be clear, in this video, we are not doing local setup or commands. This is a concept plus architecture plus roadmap video. So let's start. Firstly, I want you to imagine three parallel tracks. Track 1, which is SAP Commerce 2205, which is compatible with SAP Machine 17 or Java 17. It is using Spring 5 framework. This can be deployed in CCV2, which is SAP Commerce Cloud, or this 2205 application can even be deployed in non SAP infra, which can be your in house on prem, your own Azure or AWS, etc. Role of this SAP Commerce 2205 version is that this is the last release line that supports both CCV2 and your own infrastructure. And the track 2 is SAP Commerce 2211 on JDK 17. So this is using SAP Machine 17 JDK. It is still using the Spring 5.x framework, but this version can be deployed only on SAP Cloud, which is CCV2. Role of this version of Hybris is to provide you a launchpad to move to the SAP Commerce Cloud while still staying on Java 17 and Spring 5. So I hope it is clear to you what is the use of 2205 version of SAP Commerce Cloud. The track 3 is SAP Commerce 2211 on JDK 21. So this is using SAP Machine 21 JDK, and this is using Spring 6.x and Spring Security version also as 6.x. It is using Tomcat 10 and lot of refreshed, updated or new libraries as well. So this is more secure baseline, and its role is it's a future facing runtime line where SAP wants all its customer to land. So in a very simple language, 2205 is the last flexible on-prem capable line, and 2211 JDK 17 is a bridge line which provides you a platform to move to SAP Cloud. 2211 JDK 21 is the long term target line with more modern Java, Spring, and other libraries. Now, let's look at the story of this SAP Commerce 2205 version. Why 2205 is still everywhere? 2205 is very popular because it is the final on premise non SAP Cloud supported release line. It officially supports both CCV2 and non-SAP environments like customers on Azure, on-prem data center, etc. So you will find a lot of real projects, right, where 2205 is on customer owned Azure, 2205 is on-prem data centers, or even 2205 application is deployed on SAP Cloud or CCV2 as well. So I hope now you understand why 2205 is still everywhere, because it can be deployed in your in-house, right, on-prem. It can be deployed in Azure or AWS Cloud, or it can be even deployed on SAP Cloud or CCV2 as well. But after 2205, all versions like 2211, those can be deployed only on the SAP Cloud, which is CCV2. So I hope now you understand. Now I used the term EOMM with 2205 version of Hybris. So what does EOMM mean? So let's fix this big confusion. For 2205, SAP has announced EOMM, which is end of mainstream maintenance around July 2026. But people read this EOMM of 2205 version of Hybris as Hybris is dead, we must shut it down. But is it true? No. Let's decode this. So EOMM is end of mainstream maintenance for that release line. In simple language, before EOMM of Hybris 2205, we get a support from SAP, and that support structure name is called as mainstream maintenance support, right? But after EOMM of Hybris 2205, we still get a support, right? That support is in a reduced form, but that support is called as CSM support. What actually is this CSM support? We will discuss this in some time. So firstly, let's discuss what actually is included in this mainstream maintenance support, right? So mainstream maintenance support, as I said, it is applicable for Hybris version 2205 before July 2026, right? So in this mainstream maintenance support, SAP releases the regular patch versions like 2205.43 or 44, and these patch versions they release on monthly basis. Like the latest patch they have released is on 14th of October, and the patch version name was 2205.45. And what they do in these patch versions, they fix the functional bugs, they fix the security vulnerabilities. So you just have to raise the incidents with SAP. SAP will investigate those new issues, and if those issues are eligible or applicable, they will deliver the fixes through the upcoming 2205 patches. But then, as I said, EMM period will be applicable for Hybris version 2205 after July 2026, and then we will get a support with the name CSM support. So let's see what actually is not included in the CSM support. So during CSM support period, SAP will stop creating new 2205 patches. So this means there will be no more 2205.45 or .46 or .47 patches, etc. They will not release any monthly patches after July 2026 for Hybris version 2205. There will be no new 2205 version specific security fixes, right? They will still keep releasing the patches or new versions for 2211 stream, but here we are talking about 2205, for which the EOMM is July 2026. So for 2205 version after July 2026, they will not release any security fixes as well for this version, right? They will not do any new code development for the fresh 2205 bugs. So I hope now it is clear what actually is not included in the CSM support, right? And how the CSM support is different from the mainstream maintenance support. But EMM doesn't mean that your system will stop magically. No, your system will not stop. You can still use that same 2205 version of Hybris, but then there will be some limitations like SAP will not provide you the patches, right? Or at any stage, they can say that to fix this issue, you might have to upgrade to 2211. And there are some challenges in natural upgrade to 2211, which I will discuss with you in some time. So the key difference is no new code from SAP for 2205 line. So EOMM from SAP perspective is that we freeze this release line, it runs, but we will not evolve it anymore. And it makes sense also because they have already released the 2211 version of Hybris and they are pushing their customers to move to 2211 line. But this is not an end of Hybris. So I hope guys it is clear to you. So what is CSM or customer specific maintenance, which we already discussed that these things are not included in the CSM support, right? But then what actually is included in the CSM support? So as I said that CSM support is applicable after the EMM of any version. And as I said, this EOMM is not applicable only for 2205. Each version has a EOMM date. For example, before 2205, there was 2011 version of Hybris. This also had a EOMM date, right? Similarly, now 2205 also has one EOMM date, which is July 2026. And SAP is stating that you should migrate to 2211 version of Hybris before July 2026. But still, some customers are reluctant to migrate to July 2026. What are the reasons? We will discuss those reasons in some time. But now it is pretty much clear that after EOMM, 2205 moves into the CSM, which is customer specific maintenance. If you already have the valid SAP support, you can still raise the tickets on 2205s, which means you can still raise the tickets, right, for any issue with SAP on 2205, and SAP will try to help you, but on a best effort basis, right? So they can't give you a guarantee that we will provide you the fix, right, for this version of Hybris. What does that mean? They will share the existing knowledge base articles. They will even suggest you some workarounds, right, based on their experience. They will reuse their experience from 2211 or similar issues. Even if you still see for 2205 patch, right, they even fix those issues, right, which currently they are fixing even in the 2211 line also. So whatever the fixes they are pushing for 2211 line, they are still, you know, back pushing or back porting those fixes into 2205 line as well. But they will not start a new development stream to build a fresh 2205 patch. So CSM is more a consulting plus advice plus knowledge reuse, but no new 2205 deliveries. There can be exceptions for some big customers with special contracts, but this is the standard model, and this standard model will look like this only. So, is this the end of Hybris? No. This is the main misconception I wanted to clear, that Hybris or SAP Commerce as a product continues in 2211. This UMM is just associated with a particular version of Hybris, which is called as 2205. So your 2205 system still continues to run after EUMM, right? EMM only says that we will not ship new code for 2205 line. So if someone says that Hybris is dead after 2205, you can reply that this is not true. 2205's mainstream maintenance ends, but the product family continues as 2211 and my system will still run. So I hope now all the misconceptions around EMM for Hybris version 2205 is clear to you. But if you are reluctant to migrate to 2211, then there are some hidden timers, right? Those are sitting on 2205, and those timers are JDK 17 and Spring 5. As you know, guys, 2205 version of Hybris runs on SAP Machine 17, which is Java 17. And when SAP Machine 17 hits its EOL, which is end of life, which is around September 2026, there will be no new security patches for JDK 17. there will be no new fixes for low level JVM vulnerabilities. So this means security audits and penetration tests will start marking it as outdated runtime, because there will be no patches for JVM 17, right, or JDK 17, which 2205 version of Hybris is internally using. So if your site is internet facing, then this becomes as infosec issue. But you might think that, okay, no problem, I will just point Java home to SAP machine 21 and done. But is this so much easy? In reality, SAP Commerce is tested and shipped against a particular JDK version. For example, 2205 version of Hybris is tested and shipped against JDK 17 or SAP Machine 17. So just dropping a different JDK will introduce subtle issues. So it's not very easy to upgrade from SAP Machine 17 to SAP Machine 21 with Hybris version 2205, but it is not impossible as well. Technically, I have already achieved this. I have been successful in upgrading the 2205 version, right, from SAP Machine 17 to SAP Machine 21 after doing lot of tweakings. But that is not the official and click next type of path. So from a supportable architecture point of view, the cleaner story is move to a SAP Commerce version which is 2211, where SAP officially bundles and supports the new JDK, which is SAP Machine 21. So that is basically the recommended approach. We will come to that when we will talk about 2211 on JDK 21. Similarly, guys, 2205 uses the Spring 5. The Spring 5 line itself is also reaching its end of life around December 2026. A very important clarification that Spring come bundled with SAP Commerce. You don't go and upgrade the Spring separately as a side activity. You don't say that I am on SAP Commerce 2205. Let me just update all the Spring jars to 6.x manually. It is near to impossible to upgrade from Spring 5 to Spring 6 while staying on SAP Hybris version 2205. So this would mean touching the SAP core binaries, which is not the intended or supported approach as well. The only realistic way to get a higher Spring version is upgrade your SAP Commerce Suite to a release line where SAP has already done that work for you. For example, 2211 JDK 17 line, right? It still supports Spring 5.x, right? But 2211 JDK 21 line, right? That internally also comes bundled with Spring 6.x. So if we are saying that Spring 5 will also meet its end of life, right, in December 2026, this means we should upgrade our Hybris version to 2211 JDK 21 line. Because if you still stay on 2205 version of Hybris, which is internally using Spring 5, and Spring 5 has EOL in December 2026, right? Then Spring 5 after December 2026 will stop getting the community fixes or patches, right? Over the time, more CVs may appear which are not patched in that line. So you will feel the pressure from security team, architecture teams, and compliance audits. But your responsibility during this SAP Commerce upgrade, right, will be that you must test and adapt your custom code to be compatible with the new Spring behavior and APIs, because there are lot of changes in the Spring 5 and Spring 6 jar also. This will even impact your custom written code. So if you upgrade your SAP Commerce version from 2205 to 2211 JDK 21 line, right, which internally comes bundled with Spring 6, right, then there will be lot of adjustment you would need to do in your custom code also. So I hope it is clear to you. So if I put all the dates together, so for 2205, right, there are three important dates, right? The first one is July 2026, which is EOMM of SAP Commerce 2205. Second is September 2026, which is EOL of SAP Machine 17. EOL is end of life. Third one is December 2026, which is EOL of Spring 5 line. So if I put this all in one sentence, this means if you are on Hybris version 2205, then your application, JDK, and the framework all become old in the same window. That is why even if your business users are happy with 2205 and they don't need new features, you still need a technical upgrade plan. So it is not only, you know, 2205 will meet EOMM in July 2026, but there are other libraries also which will meet its end of life. For example, we discuss about the Spring and JDK libraries, but then there can be other libraries also, right? There can be other open source libraries which comes bundled with SAP suite. Those might also meet end of life, and then it can create a problem because SAP will not ship a new updated version of those libraries after July 2026. So now let's discuss another very important angle for 2205, which is hosting. So there are some hosting options for 2205 as we discussed. That 2205 is supported on CCV2. It is also supported on non-SAP infra, which is your on-prem, your Azure, your AWS subscriptions, etc. So many companies have built serious infra pipelines for 2205. They have complex VPNs, network rules, and firewalls, and they are used to managing their own VMs, DBs, and monitoring. For them, 2205 is comfortable because we keep the ownership of infra and app both, right? So they think that we have the ownership of application as well as ownership of infra, so they believe that everything is in their hand. Now 2211 and hosting and the big catch basically, right? That is why many customers are reluctant to migrate to 2211, right? Because from 2211 onwards, SAP official stance is you run it on CCV2. So this means all the customers have to migrate. If they are upgrading themselves to 2211 version of Hybris, they have to basically come under the CCV2 ecosystem, right? In other words, I can say 2211 is the cloud first, cloud only from SAP support perspective. So this means if you are on 2205 and you are on your own infra and you say that I want to upgrade to 2211, then you are not just doing version upgrade from 2205 to 2211. You are doing two things at the same time, right? The first one is application upgrade, right? So you are upgrading your application from 2205 to 2211. Second is hosting move. You are moving your infra to CCV2, and that is why many companies are doing long internal discussions and evaluations before deciding to migrate to CCV2. So I hope now you have a full picture of 2205 version of Hybris and 2211 version of Hybris. If your application is on 2205 version of Hybris, then this can be deployed on SAP Cloud, which is CCV2, or this can even be deployed on non-SAP Cloud, for example, Azure Cloud or AWS Cloud. But if your application is on 2211 version of Hybris, then this can be deployed only on the CCV2, which is SAP Cloud. Of course, this is a constraint, but then this has other associated benefits as well. We will discuss those benefits in some time. But before we discuss those benefits, right, and the reason why SAP is pushing its, customers to migrate to SAP Cloud, before we discuss all these points, let's have a quick overview of CCV2 or SAP Commerce Cloud. Although I have already created a dedicated video on CCV2 where I have even given you an overview of the CCV2 dashboard as well, right? But let's spend a few minutes so that CCV2 doesn't feel like a black box. So what is CCV2? CCV2 is basically SAP Commerce running on SAP managed infrastructure. Under the hood, SAP still runs it on Microsoft Azure with their own tooling and automation. So you can think it of as Hybris or SAP Commerce is still the same core product, right? Like extensions, back office, smart edit, OCC, etc. Whatever the concepts we are still using. So application will remain same. But instead of you managing the VMs or OS or DB or storage, or even you do the scaling during peak sale period, or you do the backups if you are on a Azure subscription, instead of doing all these things right in house, now SAP will take the responsibility, and SAP will run all of that for you in their cloud subscription on Azure, right? So I hope it is clear to you. So SAP cloud is also nothing, it is also basically built on top of Azure subscription, right, with the own tooling and automations of SAP. I hope guys it is clear to you. Now let's discuss very briefly who manages what, right? If you move to 2211, when you have to use the SAP cloud, right? Then who will be managing what, right? What things will be managed by SAP, and what all components you will still manage in your in-house. So SAP will manage the Kubernetes containers, right? It will manage scaling of the pods or nodes. For example, during peak sale period, we have to scale up our pods, right? We have to scale up, or we have to increase the number of nodes on which your application is running, right? If you are on the on-prem, or if you are using a Azure subscription, then you are doing all these scaling up by yourself. But when you will migrate to CCV2, then all these scalings or scale up will be done by SAP. If those scale up fluctuations are small, then SAP has auto scale up feature. But if the scale up fluctuations are quite high, then you have to inform to SAP in advance, so that they can prepare their ecosystem accordingly. So in other way, SAP will also do the OS patching or low level security updates. They will manage their SQL database. So under the hood, SAP is using the SQL database, right? So even if currently you are using Oracle database, this means if you have to migrate to CCV2, then you have to migrate all your data as well, or current data as well, to the SAP hosted SQL database through the scripting mechanism. So you have to make sure that your data is compatible, or the queries your application is firing, those queries are also compatible with SQL database. So I hope it is clear to you. SAP will also manage your storage and backups, right? They will also manage your logging and monitoring. They will also manage the underlying network in their Azure subscription. So this all infra responsibility will be outsourced to SAP once you migrate to 2211 version of Hybris, which supports the CCV2 only. So I hope now you have started realizing as well that it will offload lot of work from your plate, and SAP will start taking more bigger responsibility. This means this will reduce the burden on your head as well, right? So in one sense, this is good for you as well, that SAP is taking this responsibility. But then you as a customer or project will also still manage some components. And what are those components? You will still manage your extensions. For example, if you have training core extension, let's say, then you will be still responsible for that training core or training storefront extensions. You will still manage the code of those extensions. You will still write or still update the code of those extensions. You will be still responsible for your configurations like local.property file or environment specific configurations. You will be still responsible for your integrations like REST, SOAP, queues, or events, right? If you are communicating with the third parties, you will manage your own data model, promotions, OCC APIs, back office config, etc. So in short, you can say if you are just migrating to CCV2, then you are just offloading your infra part. Application part will still remain same, and scope will also still remain same. You are just offloading the responsibility of your infra part. So you are not losing the control over business logic. You are just delegating infra responsibilities to SAP. So the next topic is migration impact from non-SAP infra to CCV2. So if you move from 2205 on your own infra to 2211 on CCV2, there will be some tasks which you need to do, right? What are those tasks? The first one is database migration to CCV2 to the supported SQL, right? As I said, like CCV2 is internally using Azure SQL database. So you have to migrate your database data as well, and you have to make sure that your data is compatible with the Azure SQL database, right? Then you also have to migrate the media as well, whatever the media, for example, you have the product images, right? Or you have other documents, etc. You have to migrate those data as well to the Azure SQL database. How you have to do those migrations, that is a separate topic. We will discuss that topic in a separate video. But these are the migrations you need to do. You also need to rework or verify the network connectivity with various third parties, for example, ERP, CRM, or payment, etc. You also need to adjust your cost model. This is a big business change that you have to adjust your cost model. Infra cost moves into SAP subscription, right? Because previously you would be having the separate contracts. Let's say if you are on a show subscription, you would be purchasing the separate contracts with the Azure or Microsoft. Now you have to deal only with SAP. So this means all your infra cost will be diverted towards SAP once you decide to upgrade or move to CCV2. So it is very clear that migration from non-SAP infra to CCV2, it is not like a click next activity, right? So there are a lot of activities which you would need to do. It would be a separate project where you have to do a number of migrations, number of adjustments, right? Related to connectivity. Even you have to do some adjustment in your code as well. Although SAP usually offers the migration services for this migration, but still you should treat it as a separate project stream, because this migration need lot of efforts and need lot of activities. Now let's jump to the hot topic: why is SAP pushing everyone to CCV2, right? So this is a real question, why this is almost hard push from SAP, right? Why SAP is pushing all the projects to migrate to CCV2. In one sense, they are pushing for this because 2205 versions used to support both CCV2 and your on-prem or non-SAP cloud, right? But if you migrate from 2205, and you have to migrate because 2205 has a EOMM data associated. So this means you have to migrate to 2211 in the near future, right? And if you have to migrate to 2211 version of Hybris, then there is a condition associated that you have to come to SAP cloud. Your infra should be, or your application should be deployed on the SAP cloud, right? Then why SAP is pushing everyone to CCV2? Why SAP has not given the non-SAP cloud option for 2211 version of Hybris? So answer to this question is very lengthy, but I think it is worth to spend few minutes to know the real reasons behind this push, right? So there is not a single reason, it's a mix of business, support, and technical reasons. So let's break it down. So the first reason is business model shift, subscription, not perpetual. What this means: SAP, like almost every big vendor, is moving from old model which was based on perpetual license plus separate maintenance. Then you are free to host your application wherever you want. You could deploy your application on SAP cloud, but you could also deploy your application on non SAP cloud as well. What is this perpetual license? This is basically a one time fees which SAP used to charge from its customer when they used to buy the software license, right? So SAP is moving from this old business model to the cloud subscription model. And in the cloud subscription model, you pay per environment or per capacity, right? So instead of paying this, infra fees to Azure or Microsoft, right? Now SAP is saying that you should pay your infra fees to the SAP, and then SAP will manage your environment, SAP will manage your capacity. So this means SAP will give you both software plus infrastructure as a bundle. Previously, SAP was just giving you the software, and then buying the infrastructure was an option for you, that you could buy the SAP cloud or you can buy non SAP cloud as well. There were benefits, but then there were some drawbacks as well with this version or with this model. We will discuss those drawbacks or those benefits in some time. So if SAP is pushing towards CCV2, basically they are locking your license revenue, they are locking the hosting revenue. It is basically making the revenue more predictable, recurring subscription, right? So they know that this will be the revenue for this year. So it will basically simplify the sales story for them, right? They will just say that by the Commerce Cloud, we will host and we will manage your infra as well. So from SAP side, it's a very clear strategic direction. Stop selling pure on-prem Hybris, move everyone to SAP hosted Commerce Cloud. That is why 2205 was the last big on-prem line, and 2211 is clearly positioned for cloud. So I hope now you understand this one big reason why SAP is pushing everyone to basically migrate towards the CCV2, because now they want to consolidate or they want to make their business revenue more predictable. The second reason is supportability, fewer combinations to support. For example, just imagine you are in the peak sale period, right? And you get an issue, you raise the ticket with SAP, and then there will be a call, right, with SAP, where you will be, or even SAP will also be doing analysis on multiple parameters, whether it is a problem in the SAP shipped code or it's a problem in your own infra. So there are a lot of combinations to support, right? So when customer hosts the commerce themselves, SAP has to deal with crazy combinations like different Linux flavors, different patch levels, different JVM vendors and versions, different DB version and clustering setups, different reverse proxies, load balancers, and file systems. So this makes the root cause analysis very hard, right? Because in the beginning, it is very difficult to predict whether it's a Hybris bug or it is a OS JDK DB or infra misconfiguration. So when projects will move to CCV2, then SAP controls the full stack. They will have a control on the OS, JDK, DB version, container, platform, storage classes, and network. They will define a standardized environment, right? So this gives them faster support, less it works on your side type of arguments, and easier patch or hotfix rollouts. So from SAP perspective, pushing the customer to CCV2 reduces the support complexity and number of permutations. So it makes sense for the business as well, that previously they were in an endless loop to know where actually is the root cause, whether it's at infra side, right, which is not under control of SAP, or it is under the SAP shipped code, right? Now SAP is saying that we will even host your infra. So this means if there is any issue during the pressing time, then SAP will be responsible for the code, as well as SAP will be responsible for the infra. The third big reason for this push is security and compliance, one hardened baseline. So security is one of the biggest drivers, right? So if everyone runs their on-prem hybrids, some keep OS or JDK patched, but many don't, right? And I have seen this practically as well, that many projects they don't upgrade or they don't patch their OS or JDKs on regular basis, right? Similarly, some rotate the certificate properly, but many don't do. Some harden the Solar, Redis, or DB, but many don't, right? When a new CVE appears, SAP can patch the software, but they can't force customers to patch the OS JDK DB if it is on-prem. And how the situation will change once the projects will move to CCP2, then SAP will basically control your OS patching, JDK patching, DB patching, network security settings. They can roll out the security updates to the platform and ensure all the tenants are on a reasonable security baseline. So I think it's a good, or it's a win-win situation for project as well as for SAP, because it will reduce the overhead for SAP, but then it will also reduce the compliance as well as security risk for the business as well. So SAP logic is, if we host it, we can guarantee a minimum security posture. If you host it like now you are doing on 2205 version of Hybris, then we can't take any guarantee. The fourth big reason is operations and upgrade. What is the reality of on-prem? You might already be aware that there are still many projects, those are basically running on old version of Hybris, right? They are still stuck on 5.x or 6.x versions of Hybris for years. Upgrades are delayed because infra and app are intertwined, right? So for SAP, this means they have to answer tickets for very old releases as well. They carry support head for long tails of versions, right? And I have seen this practically as well, that there are many projects, those are on very old version of Hybris and they are facing lot of issues now. So if such customer move to CCV2, right, then it is easier for SAP to enforce supported version windows, right, nudge customers to plan upgrades and provide the tools to spin up new environments, test new patch versions, rollback, etc. So CCV2 helps SAV to keep customers closer to the current commerce versions, which again reduces the long-term support pain. So I hope this is also a valid reason for you as well, and you understand why SAP is pushing everyone to, migrate to SAP Cloud. The next big reason is standardization. Build once, reuse many times. With CCV2, SAP can build one standard deployment model, right? They can build one standard deployment model for container images, logging setups, backup strategy, blue green deployments, and canary rollout, etc. Canary rollout is a safe way to release new software by first sending it to small slice of users instead of everyone at once, right? So with on-prem, every customer had different server layout, different automation, different monitoring, different OS images. So standardization gives SAP better internal efficiency, easier documentation, less it depends on your infra answers. So I hope this is also clear to you. The next reason for this push is alignment with SAP's overall cloud story. So, from a bigger SAP strategy point of view, SAP is trying to align all its products under a cloud first portfolio, whether it is S4 HANA Cloud, SAP Integration Suite, SAP BTP, SAP Commerce Cloud, which is CCV2 as well. So selling the customers plus CCV2 plus BTP plus integration suite together is an easier story for them than you buy Hybris, host it somewhere, and then maybe integrate it with SAP Cloud stuff. So CCV2 helps SAP position commerce as a part of SAP's overall cloud ecosystem, not just a product you install on your own servers. So far, guys, we have discussed the SAP Commerce 2205, right, which is running on JDK 17 and Spring 5.x version. Now let's discuss the SAP Commerce 2211, which is running on JDK 17 and Spring 5.x. This version is also called as the transition or bridge line between 2205 and 2211, which is running on JDK 21 and Spring 6.x. Now let's move into the 2211 world. Why 2211 JDK 17 exists? If SAP had forced everyone directly into 2205 Java 17 Spring 5 to 2211 Java 21 Spring 6, right, in a single step, that would be a new commerce version, right, new JDK version, new Spring Major version, library cleanup, etc. So too many moving parts. So SAP introduced 2211 on JDK 17 as a bridge line where you get the 2211 features and code base, but runtime stays on SAPMachine and Spring 5.x only. So your migration can be split into two manageable steps, right? The first is 2205 to 2211 JDK 17, where it is mainly the functional, right, or infra and data upgrade only, but your runtime stack remains Java 17 and Spring 5.x only, which means if you are on non SAP cloud with this migration, you just have to migrate to CCV2. You just have to upgrade functionally. If you have to do the data upgrade, if you are moving to CCV2, then you have to do that. But in 2211 JDK 17, you are still on Java 17 and you are still on Spring 5.x, right? The second step is 2211 JDK 17 to 2211 JDK 21 migration, where you will be mainly doing the runtime upgrade. Then your landscape will be mainly Java 21 plus Spring 6 plus updated and new libraries. So this makes the life much easier for the big landscapes. So I hope now this migration plan is clear to you that if you are currently on 2205, then instead of directly migrating to 2211 JDK 21, you should migrate it in the pieces. Firstly, you should migrate from 2205 to 2211 JDK 17, where you will be basically migrating from non SAP cloud to CCV2, and then you should move from 2211 JDK 17, right, to 2211 JDK 21. When you would be already on CCV2, then you will be doing your, tech stack upgrade, right? Like you will be upgrading from JDK 17 to JDK 21 and Spring 5 to Spring 6. And then you will also be doing lot of library cleanup, library upgrade, and addition of new libraries. Those library cleanup or addition of new libraries will be coming bundled with the new software. You would just need to adjust your custom code during this migration. But just to clarify you that currently SAP is actively releases the patches for 2205, it is releasing the patches for 2211 JDK 17, and it is even releasing the new versions or patches for 2211 JDK 21 also. For example, in the 2211 JDK 17 flavor, you will see the versions like these: 2211.39, 41, 42, 43. In some of the versions they have added the new features, right? And in some of the versions, basically those are the patch versions in which they have fixed some security related vulnerabilities. So I hope now you understand the motive behind these versions or patch releases, that they are basically fixing the bugs, security fixes, or doing minor enhancement, right? When they release these versions, or they release these patch versions for 2211 on JDK 17 line. So let's look into the hosting expectation for the 2211 version of Hybris, which is running on JDK 17 line. So there are two scenarios in it. Firstly, if you are already on CCV2 in 2205, then moving from 2205 to 2211 JDK 17 is just a code or platform upgrade for you. But if you are on non SAP infra with 2205, adopting 2211 typically means that you are upgrading the app, plus you are also moving to the CCV2. Next topic is SAP Commerce 2211 on JDK 21. So the first question is, why Java 21? Java 21 is a newer LTS long term support release than Java 17, right? That is the reason that this version of Hybris has adopted the Java 21. What are its advantages? First one is long support window. Second one is performance and GC improvements into the Java 21. The third one is new language features, right? Good for new custom code. Fourth one is better custom security posture over the time. So SAP thinking here is customer will stay on 2211 for many years. So we want them on a modern long lived JDK. So they moved commerce to SAP Machine 21 in this line. But next question is why Spring 6 and Spring Security 6? With Java 21, it also makes sense to align with the newer Spring generation. In this JDK 21 line, SAP bundles Spring 6.x and similarly Spring Security 6.x. But this comes bundled with SAP Commerce version, right? You are not doing a manual or Spring upgrade, but moving from a Spring 5 based SAP Commerce version like 2205 or 2211 JDK 17 to Spring 6 based 2211 JDK line means SAP has to take care of Jakarta migration, core framework changes, and your responsibility is to test and adapt your custom extensions for compatibility. So, when you plan the migration, put a clear testing focus on areas using Spring config, security, AOP, etc. Let's quickly look into the compatibility metrics and patch line examples and other changes into this 2211 JDK 21 line. So for 2211 JDK 21 line, it is using SAP Machine 21 as a JDK, Tomcat 10.x version, right? Spring 6.x version. This comes bundled with the suite which SAP ships basically. Similarly, Spring Security also it uses 6.x version. Solar version it is using as 9.x currently, and it is supporting any Windows OS or Linux, right? That supports SAP Machine 21. Patch line examples, these are the patches, or right, or these are the new versions I would say SAP has released so far for this line. The first one they released in September 2025, and recently they have released, right, 2211 JDK 21.4 in November 2025. So I hope this is clear to you. And in these patch releases they have basically done the lot of library cleanup. They have basically added new libraries, or they have updated existing libraries as well. If you want to see the full list of the libraries they have updated, or they have added, or they have removed, you can watch the study guide by clicking on the link which is given in the comment section of this video, and you can get the full details of the changes which SAP has done in this release line. So in short, I can say 2211 JDK 21 is basically a modern Java, right? It comes bundled with modern Java or JDK 21. It comes with modern Spring or Spring 6X version, and it also comes up with a cleaned up library set. So I hope this is clear to you. So this means for the security, right, for security and compliance team, this is a big win. Now let's quickly do a technical and conceptual uses comparison between 2211 JDK 17 and 2211 JDK 21. If we see the technical comparison, right, 2211 JDK 17 is using SAP Machine 17. This is using SAP Machine 21. 2211 JDK 17 is using Spring 5.x version. Why I am not saying 5.3.43? Because these versions might get upgraded, because tomorrow 5.3.44 can also come, right? But this is the current or latest version which is being used into the latest patch, right? Patch of 2211 JDK 17. Similarly, the current version of Spring is 6.2.11 in 2211 JDK 21.4 patch, right? Similarly, it is using Spring Security 5.x, and 2211 JDK 21 line is using Spring Security version as 6.x. This is using Tomcat 9.x version, and 2211 JDK 21 is using Tomcat 10.x version. Its libraries are partially updated, but here all the libraries are cleaned up and upgraded to a larger extent. Similarly, what is the conceptual usage of both version? Basically, 2211 JDK 17, this is for finishing your functional and infra upgrade from 2205, right? And this is basically the one which is basically a modern platform and for a long lived runtime, right? Because this is using JDK 21 and Spring 6 version. So this version is for getting into 2211 features and data model, right? And this is more advanced, so this reduces the security and compliance risk, right? So this 2211 JDK 17, right, this keeps the runtime mostly stable, and this is aligned with Java 21 and Spring 6 ecosystem. So I hope now, guys, it is clear to you the technical comparison and conceptual uses of 2211 JDK 17 and 2211 JDK 21. So guys, now let's quickly see the local extension.xml and recipe changes into the 2211 JDK 21. You also saw that the new 2211 JDK 21 recipe have some changes into the local extension.xml. At a high level, old cockpit based UIs are reduced or removed. You will not see those cockpit extensions now into your local extension.xml. You will see back office and smart edit are the main UIs going forward. In the integration stack, inbound services, outbound services, webhook, API registry is more central. Some new payment, open payment framework, order management extensions appear in the CX recipe. Some old one like many specific cockpits are dropped. So if you are upgrading from 2211 JDK 17 to JDK 21, then don't copy your old local extension.xml from 2205 and hope it will work, because there are a lot of extensions, right, like cockpit extensions, those have been removed. You always take the new recipes local extension.xml as a base and then remove what you don't need, and then on top of that add your own custom extensions. So I hope, guys, this is clear to you. Now the next topic is recommended roadmap for the projects. Now what should you actually do? Let's be practical. If you are on 2205 today, step 1 is move to a recent 2205 patch. Upgrade within 2205 to a recent patch like 2205.43, 2205.44, or a newer version. This keeps you safe while still in mainstream maintenance. Second step is decide your hosting direction. Answer the questions like, are we okay to move to CCV2? Are there legal data residency or security constraints? What is our long term SAP Commerce strategy? If you plan to keep SAP Commerce, then realistically 2211 plus CCV2 is the route SAP wants you on. Step 3 is 2205 to 2211 journey on JDK 17. Treat this as your primary upgrade project. You will have the new 2211 features, new Solar, new integration features, possibly move to CCV2 in the same projects. So make sure that when you do this migration from 2205 to 2211 on JDK 17, in the same project, you should move to the or you should migrate from your on-prem to CCV2 as well. But your runtime will stay on Java 17 plus Spring 5.x version. So there is no change in the runtime, right? You will still stay on Java 17 and you will still stay on the Spring 5.x version. And the next and the final step is when you have to move from 2211 JDK 17 to 2211 JDK 21. So once the 2211 JDK 17 is stable, then plan a runtime upgrade project, right, where you will be moving to SAPMachine 21. You will be moving to Spring 6.x or Spring Security 6.x, right? So you will get a benefit from the cleaned up library. That is why this is the ultimate version of Hybris where SAP wants all its customers to land, right? But just be aware that you will not be moving to Spring 6.x version or Spring Security 6.x version separately. Once you will basically install the 2211 JDK 21 Hybris patch or Hybris version, you will automatically inherit the Spring 6.x or Spring Security 6.x, right? Because these comes bundled with the Hybris suite only. So in this step, focus strongly on testing your custom code, specifically the Spring configs, security integration, AOP events, interceptors, etc. If you can't leave the 2205 quickly, because some customers have huge landscapes, right? They have frozen budgets or they have strong constraints because of any reason. So if you are forced to stay on 2205, at least move to the latest 2205 patch, right? And work with the security team on web rules, network hardening, monitoring and intrusion detection, and start building the business case for upgrade now, even if the execution is 1 or 2 years away. I personally have experience in this scenario. So if you need more information or more support, you can always reach out to me separately for this part as well. But be honest with the management that running 2205 beyond 2026 is a calculated risk decision, right? So I hope now the future roadmap for your project is clear to you, what steps you have to take based on the current status of your application, right? So how to explain this to your stakeholders? You can explain the whole story to your management like this: 2205 is the final on-prem capable line. Its mainstream maintenance ends around July 2026. After that, we go into CSM, where SAP won't create new 2205 patches but will support on a best effort basis. Our tech stack on 2205 uses SAP Machine 17 and Spring 5, which also hit their own end of life around late 2026. From 2211 onwards, SAP expect us to run on CCV2, that is basically their own managed cloud on Azure. 2211 has two runtime lines. First one is 2211 JDK 17 plus Spring 5.x, which is basically a transition line. And the ultimate line is 2211 JDK 21, right, plus Spring 6.x. So this is a future line with modern runtime and cleanup libraries. We do not upgrade Spring separately. Spring come bundle with the Commerce suite, right? When we move to a 2211 JDK 21 build, Spring gets upgraded to 6.x automatically, and our responsibility is to ensure our custom extensions are compatible. So recommended roadmap is stabilize on the latest 2205 patch. That should be your first step. Then decide and plan the move to CCV2. Once you have decided that you will move to CCV2, then upgrade to 2211 JDK 17 for functional and infra alignment, which means at this step you will move to CCV2. Then upgrade to 2211 JDK 21 for long term runtime health. So I hope this is clear to you, the whole picture is clear to you, and you can explain this to your stakeholders as well. If they understand this, decision makings become much easier. All right, friends. So this was the full story from 2205 to 2205 EOMM to 2211 on JDK 17 to 2211 on JDK 21. We cleared the misconception that EOMM is equal to end of Hybris. We also understood what EOMM and CSM actually mean. We saw how JDK 17 and Spring 5 EOMM timelines put pressure on 2205. We also understood why 2205 is the last flexible hosting release. We also looked at 2211 JDK 17 as a bridge. We also looked at 2211 JDK 21 as the future runtime. Then we touched on CCV2 and its impact and discussed a realistic migration roadmap. Very important reminder once again: Spring is bundled inside SAP Commerce. You don't upgrade Spring standalone, you upgrade your Commerce version, and with that, Spring jumps from 5.x to 6.x. Your main responsibility is to test and fix your custom code for that new Spring version. So guys, that's all for this video. If this video helped clearing your doubts, share it with your architects, project manager, or a lead developer. Put your questions in the comments, especially if you are stuck on 2205 and thinking what's next. If you need 101 help to plan your upgrade path or run a POC, you can reach to me at amandeepinjavahybris@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching. This is Amandeep signing off from Hybris Tube. See you in the next video.